I'm Laura Bartow from Studio One Stampers, and I want to welcome to this class called Do-It-Yourself Birthday Cards. Today we're going to make 4 different birthday cards. All of them require no actual stamping and have lots of easy parts to put together. What I want to tell you about first is who I am. What I love to do is I love to teach stamping. I've been doing this for 19 years. I have done home parties, large group events, women's groups, fundraisers, oh my goodness, all kinds of great things. And I'm still super passionate about paper crafting. Well, what I want to tell you about this class is that you're not only going to learn how to put these cards together, but you're going to learn a few behind the scenes tips on how I think about cards, how I think about designing cards, some of the tools that I use in preparing my cards. So I can't wait to get started. So let's go ahead and do some crafting together. Well, here we are with our first card. So go ahead and find the supplies that you have for your first card. It's got a pink card base like this, a piece of white, some designer paper, a piece of sparkle, and the word celebrate. So go ahead and pull those out and get them ready to go. Also make sure that you have your glue handy because that's what we're going to need for our first project. So let's go ahead and put this card together. One of the things you might want to do is you might want to put a little dab of glue on a piece of scrap paper, just kind of a little dab, and grab your toothpick. So that's a really helpful tool for doing some fine gluing. So I have that ready. And here's our pieces. So the first thing we want to do is we want to grab this larger piece of designer series paper, and that's going to get glued onto this white piece. And the way it goes is it's about 1/8 of an inch on each side and 1/8 of an inch from the top. So that's kind of how it goes. So it's kind of very much framed out that way. So let's go ahead and glue that piece on. When you glue, you only need a very small amount of glue, and I'm just going to put a tiny dot, and if you can see the dot, then it's big enough. I'm just going to put a tiny dot in each of the 4 corners. That's going to hold my piece really well, and it's also going to make it so that my paper doesn't get saturated with lots of glue. Excuse me. All right, so let's go ahead and place that in 1/8 of an inch from each side and 1/8 of an inch from the top. Well, that's a good start. The next thing you want to do is find this piece of glimmer paper, and that's going to go right here underneath, right against the designer series paper, not overlapping, but right against it. So let's go ahead and put a few dots of glue on the back of that. So here, I'll move it down here so you can see. I'm just going to use maybe 3 or 4 dots of glue. Very simple. And put that in place. The nice thing about this glue is that it gives you a moment to move it around a little bit. Just a few seconds, but that's all we need. All right, so there we go. It's already looking just absolutely beautiful. I love all these beautiful daisies or flowers or dahlias or whatever kind of flower they are. They're just beautiful summer colors, and I just absolutely love them. So now what I want to do is it's time to find your words, and your words will say celebrate. And these words are going to go right across that in that white space you have at the bottom. And what I want to show you is how to glue that using a toothpick. Because sometimes when we get our glue, it can come out too fast or get too thick. So what I want to do is I just want to take a toothpick, and I'm really aiming for the bottom of each letter. So I want a little dab, a tiny, tiny dab. I don't even know if you can see how small that is. And if you can't see it, that means I'm doing a good job because I'm not using too much. And then at the top of each letter, I don't have to do it everywhere. So the top of this letter, the top of that one, the top of this one, the top of that one. And it looks like I'm just about finished, but I'll wait a moment for you to catch up. So just a little bit of glue. And you can use that toothpick to kind of move the glue around. Ideally, you don't want really much of a buildup of this glue. You really want to have it as a very, very thin coat, because then nothing will ooze out when you're placing it down on your paper. So there we go. Well, I think mine is ready to go. And I'm going to go ahead and just very carefully plan my placement. I'm going to kind of try to hold it somewhere where there isn't much glue. And I'm going to plan before I put it down. I'm going to make sure that everywhere along the bottom looks like it's even. I'm going to push the bottom part down, and then the rest will kind of fall in place. I'm just going to very carefully push that down. Well, there we go. So it's going to take you another moment or two to probably get all your glue in the right spot. Now, if you should happen to have some glue where you don't want it, this would be a good time to kind of grab a tissue or something to kind of pull up any extra glue that you can get off. And later on, once it's dry, if the glue you'll still see it's a little bit sticky, you can always dab it with a little bit of baby powder or some cornstarch, whatever it is that will just kind of keep it from being sticky. So sometimes I run into trouble and have a little extra glue in places that I don't want. But that cornstarch or baby powder technique works really well to get any sticky off, because of course we don't want it stuck inside the envelope when we send the card. So, all right, so basically our card is ready to put on our card front. Now, make sure that your fold is on the left, so the card will open correctly. So make sure that your opening is over to the right and your fold is on the left. And you'll see that it's already been folded for you, but if you wanted to add a little more of a crease, you could always take a bone folder or a spoon and give it a little bit more of a crease. So now I think this is dry enough, and we're ready to put this onto the front of our card. So I'm just going to flip the whole thing over, and again I'm just going to put dots of glue just in the corners as well as in the middle there. So there we go, and I'm just going to flip that over and put that in, and I'm looking for it to be 1/8 of an inch here and here and here. So this layer's been cut so that it's completely framed out evenly by the pink. And so you can see now we have the finished cards. Well, I hope that you like these, and I thought it would be kind of fun to show you some of the materials and some of the things that I use in preparing this card. So I'm going to set one of these aside, and I'm going to kind of keep one off to the side here, hopefully in the frame for a while, so that you can kind of keep referring to it as you're working if you need to see what the finished one looks like. But I'm going to bring in some other materials so that you can see kind of what was put together. I'm going to bring in some designer paper, and that's what we call this. This is patterned paper. I'll pull these aside so you can kind of get a look at this. This is a different set of paper, but just as beautiful as the one you have. This is a pansy paper, and you can see I've got all these beautiful pansies, and all of these papers are two-sided, so you can see that that's what the back of that one looks like. And one of the cool things about Stampin' Up! Is that they put a lot of work into color coordination. And on each package of Designer Series paper, they list the solid colors that have been used to match. And so you can see we've got the same colors here and the same colors there and the same colors here. So with the printed paper, they all match the solid paper. And when that happens, that's when the coordination is just so natural and so easy because the work's done already for you already. Also, all of our ink colors also match this, and our markers, so and our ribbons. And so when you come together to use the products that are all the same color, the final result is really stunning. So what I did is I decided on this card we were doing to pick a piece of designer series paper and then to find the coordinating cardstock that worked within the design, and then added a little bit of a dazzling piece. This one's our bedazzled paper. It's a little bit different than the one you have, just another beautiful paper. And so I decide I'm going to do that, and then I have to decide on my layout, like where each piece is going to go. So I wanted to show you really basically how I cut this layout with my paper trimmer, so you can duplicate this layout yourself as well. So this is my paper trimmer, and it's got two different blades on it. It's got this one here that is a scoring blade, and this one that is a cutting blade. So first we're going to start off with our cutting blade because I don't need to score until I have my size set. I'm going to put my glue off to the side just so I don't put my paper in it. So the first thing I had to decide is what color I wanted my card to be, and this is an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, and so to make my card base, I just stick it in here at 5.5 inches, right there, and I cut it. So now I have enough for 2 cards, and then I'm going to put my cutting blade up away out of the way, and I'm going to score this. And I know because this is 8.5 that 4 1/4 will give me a fold that I want. So there's my scoring blade, and you can see it didn't cut it, it just scored it. And when I score, I want that to be the outside of my card, so I'm going to go ahead and fold that in half and grab my bone folder, and that gives me my my card base. So that's super easy. So one piece of 8.5 by 11 will give you 2 card bases. So that's a really nice way, and that's exactly what fits into the into our medium size envelope. And so that's pretty much my standard card size that I use. Now to cut this white layer on this card, I'm actually going to cut 4 of them at one time. And I find that the easiest way to do that is to trim off 1/2 inch in both directions. So I'm going to put this at 8 so I can trim off that 1/2 inch. So you can see I've got the 1/2 inch strip here that I cut off of the side. And then I'm going to do the same thing in the opposite direction. So I know this dimension is 11, so I'm going to cut this entire piece at 10.5. So there we go. So now I've cut off a section from the long side and a section from the short side. So my piece is now 8 inches by 10.5. And so I'm just going to slide this down here, and I'm going to find my 5 1/4 mark right there, and go ahead and slice that in half. And now I have 2 equal pieces, and I'm going to stack these up because I can cut 2 layers with this. And I'm going to find my 4 mark, and I'm going to go ahead and cut through both layers and doing that. So now you can see I have 4 pieces, and that's the perfect layer size to be framed out by my card. And so that's always a really fun way to go. And then for this design, I had to decide where to put my designer paper. And so I decided that I would have it come down 3 inches. And what's wonderful about that is because the paper is 12 by 12, if I cut a 3-inch section, I can cut 4 of those. And so I can get about this size paper, I can get about 12 pieces of this size paper from one sheet of designer paper. And then I added my 1/2 inch strip and then my die cut greeting. So I hope you're all caught up and you have your Celebrate card ready to go. Well, here are the pieces that you're going to need for your second card. It's a white card base, a piece of pink paper, and 3 balloons, a piece of designer paper, and make sure you find your little bow in your kit as well. So those are the things that are coming in the kit. This particular card in the lingo is referred to as punch art. This is a particularly simple piece of punch art because we're not actually doctoring the shape. These are balloons, they're going to be balloons, but sometimes people make animals and creatures and flowers and all kinds of things using different bits of punches and punching them differently. And so maybe sometime we'll do a punch art class to show you some of the really intricate things that people do with that. But anyway, this is a very, very simple punch art class. So hopefully you have your pieces out. The first thing we want to do is we're going to work on this pink piece. So I'm just going to set aside my card base because we're going to not use that for just a moment. So what I want to do is focus on this particular piece. And before we glue anything, I just want to lay out all the pieces because we want to glue a little later. So the first one is this designer series paper, and that's going to go at the bottom. It's going to go the same amount, about 1/4 inch from the bottom and also from the sides. And then our 3 balloons. We want to position our middle balloon so it's just above the edge of the cardstock. And then we want to position 2 of them right next to that, but going this way. So what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and grab your marker or your pen. It doesn't matter as long as it's a dark color or black. This happens to be a basic black Stampin' Write marker. This one has 2 tips to it. It has a brush tip and it also has a fine tip. And today I want to use the fine tip. So I'm going to put my cap on the top to keep it safe, and I'm going to use my fine tip. The first thing I want you to do is I want you to find the center of this designer series paper. And you can just do that by eyeballing it, or you can do it by sort of measuring something to the side and doing that. You could do it by maybe kind of rolling it and kind of putting a little notch with your fingernail, however you feel comfortable finding the center of that paper. And then I want you to slide that paper down a little bit. And because it's not glued, we can do that. And I want you to put a dot, just one little dot, at that spot that you believe is just about centered between that. Now we're going to end up covering up that dot when we put the paper back, but that's going to be our dot for making our balloon strings. So the first thing I want to do is take the balloon string up to the center. So I'm going to draw a line from this balloon down to the center. So just a string, and it doesn't have to be perfectly straight. And I'm going to stop right when I reach my balloon. Then I'm going to go from our dot to this other balloon, and I might want to twist it just a little so that it goes right to the center of that balloon. So we're going to do it just like that, and then we'll do the same thing on the other side. And they don't have to be all the same height. Sometimes it's kind of fun if the balloons are sort of at 3 different heights, so don't feel like you have to have perfect symmetry. So I've got 3 lines. Okay, so this is what it looks like without the balloons on there. It looks like an arrow pointing down. And so hopefully you'll have those 3 things done. So you've got your dot in the center, so you've found the center of your paper, and you've put a dot in the middle of your paper, and then you're drawing 3 lines, 1 up to the center balloon, 1 to the second balloon, and 1 up to the third balloon. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of move my 2 side balloons away, just so I don't get them in the way, in anything on them. And I'm going to slide my center balloon right down to where it touches the line. And I'm going to draw 2 loops. So a loop from this side and a loop from that side. And then a line across the smallest part of the balloon. Okay? So there we go. So a loop on one side, a loop on the second side, and across the middle of the balloon. And I'm going to go ahead and glue that balloon in place so I don't lose its location. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a couple of dots of glue and put that, and don't put any glue up at the top because that's going to be on our other piece of paper. So just a couple of dots to hold that in place. Okay, so that balloon is secure and ready to go. So I've got my 2 loops on each side and a line across the middle. I'm going to repeat that process on the other 2 balloons. So I'm going to slide this balloon down to its location, and I'm going to draw a loop on this side and a loop on that side, and then a line across the shortest section. That's where you would be tying your balloon. And so now it looks like I have a bow on my balloon. And I'm going to go ahead and glue that one in place. So this is what it looks like when I pull the balloon out of the its location. So there we go. Can put that right back there. And I think I want my balloon sort of touching the other balloon. I think that's going to work out well, or near it. It doesn't matter, wherever you want your balloons to be. And so now I'm going to do the same thing on this one, and I'm definitely going to have this one overlap the balloon because balloon bouquets are not always symmetrical. So I have my the bottom of my balloon, and I'm doing one more time, a loop on each side and a line across the shortest part of the balloon. Okay, so there I've got my 3 balloons. I've got the strings done, I've got bows on them, and I'm ready to glue my last balloon in place. So I'm just going to put a couple of dots of glue on there and put this balloon in place. And it's fine if it goes a little bit over top of the loop or a little together. It just gives it more dimension, looking like it's a bouquet of balloons. All right, so how are you doing? I hope you're getting these strings put in and the balloons all organized. The last thing to do just for this piece is to put our designer series paper. And you'll remember that we wanted it at a 1/4 inch on each side and the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and put 4 dots of glue, 1 in each corner, and put this piece in place. And that should cover up that spot where I had my dot, where all the pieces came together. So here we are. I'm a 1/4 inch. I can move mine over just a tiny bit there to make it just a little bit more even. There we go. And now at that spot right there, I'm going to put a dot of glue and put my bow there. So I'm just going to put a dot of glue. It doesn't matter whether it's on the designer paper or on the card itself. Just a very small dot of glue, and then lay this little bow on there. And now it looks like you have all those balloons coming together and being tied together by that little bow. So hopefully you have that. So you've got your designer series paper in place, and then a little dot of glue, and then lay your bow onto that little dot of glue. And hopefully that'll dry pretty quickly. So once you have that, it's time to put it onto your card base. So I'm going to take it and flip this over, and you can see I can see a little bit of my balloon above there, which I wanted to do. I wanted to have that just peeking up there so it looks like it's floating. And we'll put this, we're going to center this on our card base, and so we're going to have the same amount, we're going to ignore the little balloon, we're going to have the same amount of pink, of white around each section. But you can see how our balloon goes above the the paper, and that really emphasizes that it's a separate piece, that it's not been printed, and it's actually three-dimensional. So there we go. So there's our simple balloon card. And I want to show you another punch art idea. So I'm going to put that away, and I'm just going to leave this here, and hopefully you'll be able to kind of still see it while I'm creating and showing you a little bit more about some other punches. So this is a different punch. It's not the balloon punch, it's the Snowman Punch. And this particular punch is called a builder punch, and that's because it has multiple things that you can punch out. It's got a snowman, it's got two arms, it's got a nose, and it's got a hat. And so I'm going to just grab different pieces of paper and show you how to create another punch art piece with this same layout but with a different punch. So what I have for you here already is some paper that I'm going to punch, and some paper. So I've got the same layout. You can see I've got the same size paper here and the same fold on there. So we're starting with that. And then I'm going to put a piece of white paper at the bottom like this, and I'm going to pretend that that's my snow that my snowman is going to be sitting in. And then I'm going to take my punch and I'm going to unlock it. So I just pull this down, and that unlocks the punch. And then the paper actually goes in this slot right here, and then here is where I actually do the punching, so back here at the back. So I'm going to stick my white paper in here, and you can see that I'm going to get some other things. I'm going to get maybe a little hat and a nose and the snowman shape. So let me go ahead and punch that, and you can see those pieces will pop out. So you can see I've got those pieces. I found the hat, but of course I would like my hat to be brown. So I'm going to take another piece of cardstock that's brown, and I'm going to just stick that in here so that I can make a brown hat. And so I'm going to punch out a brown hat. So you can see my snowman is starting to come together. I'm just going to reach over here real quick. I forgot to bring over my orange paper, but I've got it now. And then here I'm going to just stick a little snippet of orange paper in here to get my pumpkin nose. So out comes my pumpkin nose. There it is. Okay, there's my cute little pumpkin nose. So I'm building my pumpkin nose. And then I need some arms, or sticks, or whatever we call them. And if I put this piece in, I can punch out the two arms for my snowman. There we go. And there they are. So I can begin to build my snowman the same way we did our balloons. So we can put our snowman right here onto the snow. I can put that cute hat on. I can put a nose on. I can put little arms behind here. Whoops, let me just pick this up, sorry. Just have to get my little arm under there. There we go. And another arm on the other side. There we go. My snowman's coming together. And of course, any papers I use would be fun with this. And then I just need to take my black marker and put a couple of eyes next to my little nose there. So let's go ahead and put a couple of eyes on our snowman. There we go. And there's our cute little snowman done with a little bit of, all done with one little punch. So of course I would glue that down so that was ready to go. But that's another idea for punch art. So I just thought I would show you how I use my punches to create cards like that. All right, well hopefully you have your balloons all in place. You have your little strings going down to one spot and added your cute little tie bow for that. So here we are. Let's just keep looking at this for a second and making sure that everybody has their card ready. Well, here's our third card for this class, and it's a wish card. So I think it's just so cute with this diagonal paper, and I have a brick texture on the front here. So when you're gluing, you want to make sure that your brick texture is up. That's going to be a really fun thing. As a matter of fact, I want to show you how I made those brick textures. It's super easy and super fun. So I'm going to just slide this out of the way for the moment and bring in my cut and emboss machine. This is a beautiful machine. It's a roller machine, and it both does the embossing like we're going to do now with the brick pattern, and it also does the die cutting that we did on our celebrate words and on our wish words. So I have my cardstock here, and I have it already scored, and I want to take that and put it into my die just so that that score line is at the edge of my pattern. So I have that at the edge of my pattern, and I'm going to close this up. So I have this closed, so it's a sandwich. So I've got my cardstock in there, and the extra cardstock that I don't want to have anything on, I'm going to send that through my machine first. And so I just have a basic platform here that's going to go on, and I'm going to line this up on there. And then I'm going to take this gray piece to protect it. Every time you use a folder, you always need a protector. And so this one needs the gray protector because of it's an extra 3D embossing folder, so it gives a really great texture. And so I'm just going to roll it through here. And I just need to roll it through once, and then I'll take apart all of this and we'll see what we have underneath. So now we take off the lid and take out the piece from the folder and look at that great texture that I've accomplished with that one simple motion. So there we go. So that's how I put that on there for you, so you could see, so you could enjoy that brick wall behind our wish card. Well, let's go ahead and work on getting this card put together now. So the next thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to tie, and sometimes I think that might be the hardest thing in card making is to tie a bow, but we're going to attempt it, and you know, it's going to go as well as it's going to go. So what we want to do is we want to just do the first part of our bow just like we're tying our shoes, and so we have that that little beginning part there, and this is where it would be just so comfortable to have a friend come and put their finger right there. But I'm just going to stick one of my fingers there and finish the bow. So I'm going to take a loop and probably switch over to my other finger to hold that down tight. And we're going to wrap that around, and we're going to push that through the hole. So we've got our little opening there. Now, before I pull it tight, I'm going to grab that underneath string and make sure that that's tight before I pull my bow tight. So there we go. And that's kind of how I get a nice tight bow. Now, there are probably lots of different ways to do it, but that way works really well for me. So it might take you a little while to fiddle around and play with your bow and do all that, and that's okay. And it's fine however it goes. It's just a fun little decoration, and you can trim off any excess that you want to trim off. I'm going to do that again for you just because I think it's worth doing again. So I'm just going to untie my bow, and I'm going to start over just to show you one more time how to do that. So I'm going to make sure my ends are pretty close to being even. So they're, you know, pretty close to the center there. And I'm just going to cross over one and tuck it under just like you're tying your shoes. So we're ready to tie our shoes, and then kind of keep that tight, make a loop, and then wrap this one around. So you can wrap around to the top or around the bottom. Either way, that will just depend on which way your bow goes. And so now I have my my loops, but you can see it's kind of loose, so I'm going to just go ahead and make it tighter underneath before I pull my loops tight. So there we go. And this one went more sideways because of the direction that I wrapped my baker's twine around. So we're going to go ahead, and You might still be working on your bow for a little while, and that's okay. Now the next thing to do is to put on our punch circle. So I used another punch to do this, some pretty gold paper, and we want to put that so it's the same distance from the top as the sides at the top, and so the top and sides will be the same. So I'm going to go ahead and just put a few dots of glue on the back and put that in place. So we're going to put that right up there. Okay. So we have our bow at the bottom and we have our little gold circle medallion at the top. Now it's time to put this onto our card because our word wish goes past the piece here. So we're going to go ahead and put that on the card. And I've chosen to put this on the diagonal, just a little bit of a diagonal. I just think it adds some energy to the card. So we'll go ahead and put some dots of glue on here, and we'll just put this on a little bit of a tilt. Whatever angle you enjoy is fine. I am trying to keep it fairly centered because I do have to fit that word wish on here. Now it's time to grab our word wish and let's lay it out before we start gluing. I think that's always a good way to do that. And I want that word to also be on the diagonal. So I am kind of keeping in my mind that I want it straight with the top and bottom, or just about that kind of thing. Now these words are kind of scripty, and I did find out that in order to kind of make them straight, if you have your pen handy, the bottom of this W right here and the bottom of this little curly Q before the H starts or the S, I guess that's the S, are the two parts that would be at the same height, if that makes sense. So, and then you also should be able to find some sort of a little dot. Now, if you didn't find your dot or it wasn't in your envelope or whatever, no worries. You can always draw that in with like a Sharpie marker or something. So, anyway, so that's how it should look. So I like to have mine all laid out and ready to go, and then just pick up each piece and put it back where it came from. So we'll start with the W and get that in place. So you can see I'm going to leave the rest of it all where it is. So I'll pick up my W, and I'm going to go ahead and just put just a few dots of glue around. I don't need it everywhere, just little dots at the tops and bottoms of the letter. So you can see I've got my glue on there, and then I'm going to place it down, and I don't want to move it. I want to get it just where I want it the first time because I don't want glue everywhere else. So I'm just going to place it right down. Okay, so we've got our W in place. I have to hold it for just a moment to get that to hold. And now it's time to do our ISH, and we'll do the same thing with that. We're going to do the same thing. Keep in mind where it came from and put the little dots of glue here. So just the bottoms and tops of the letters, maybe a little in between, super small dots. If you can see those dots, you can do that. You also can bring back in your toothpick and put them on that way. That's an equally good way to do that. And nice thing is, because I've only put it in certain places, I have a place to hold onto it now firmly without any glue on it. So I'm just going to go ahead and remember that I want the bottom of this to line up with the bottom of that and place it down. All right, well that looks really good. I just have my little dot to put in place. And I found when I'm putting dots in place like that, sometimes it's easier just to put the dot of glue on the spot on the paper rather than putting it on the piece itself, because I don't really have anything to hold onto on the piece if it's full of glue, and that'll get all over me too. So I'm just going to scoot my dot up higher and put a dot of glue right there. Very, very small dot of glue. And then move my dot back over top of that little bit of glue. And look at how well that works. So hopefully you're getting your word positioned in place and making an adorable wish card. Well, I'm going to scoot this over to the side and show you a little bit how I cut out these letters. Clearly they're beautifully cut, and I certainly didn't try to do that with scissors. I went back to my trusty cut and emboss machine and the dies that I use. So let me just put this one here. I'll just put this one out of the way, and I'm going to bring in my cut and emboss machine again so that you can see another card that I made with that. So I'm going to show you a card, a very simple card. This is a simple card that has designer series paper. It has a little strip of cardstock and then this beautiful tree die cut and just a greeting right here that's been stamped. So I want to show you with my cut and emboss machine. I have a bunch of different layers of things that I can add onto my machine. This one was the one that I used to do the embossing folder. So I'm going to set that aside because I'm going to be cutting now. And I have a cutting layer. This is my layer number 2. And I'm going to add a base plate, and you can see all the scars here from my previous cutting, and that's just fine. That will last a long time. And then I'm going to bring in a piece of brown cardstock. And this is the set of dies. I'll kind of scoot them over for you if I can. This is a set of dies that actually match a stamp set, but we can use them independently as well to cut out branches and trees and all kinds of great things. There's even some little birds that I could cut out and stick in my trees if I want to. But I'm going to just use this in the cutting, not use the stamps today. So here's my tree, and it's got a little reinforcer around the edges so that the branches don't get bent. But I'm going to put that down on my cardstock, and that's going to be face down with the cutting side down. And then I'll put another plate, just like the one that's underneath it. I'll put this plate over top, and I'll roll it through. And so I did the same thing with this wish, and the same thing with the celebrate words that we had on our first card. And so you can see I can just crank it through and pull that out. And let's see what we have. Let's see if this worked. So we take that off and I'll flip it over, and there you can see there's my tree, and it just comes right out of the die, and I can pull out the pieces. I just want to be gentle and not rip off any of my little branches that are there. There we go. And look at that, I have a little tree, and then I can just kind of poke out some of the extra pieces that are there. And I have that beautiful tree. And how easy was that to just die cut that? And what I absolutely love about having a machine like this and having the choices is that I could make a tree in any color I want. I can emboss cardstock, any color cardstock. I don't have to try to purchase these things already done. I can be creative and have fun with that, and able to create for you as well. So hopefully you have your wish card all done, and we will move on to our next card. Well, here we are up to our 4th card for this class. And what I love about this card is it's actually a gift card holder. Now, you don't have to make it into one if you don't want to, but it's a great place to put a gift card or some money as a happy birthday present. And wouldn't that be fun to open that up and see a present right inside of your card? So let's talk about how to put this one together. The first thing we want to do is make our pocket. And you can see that this is a pocket that is open here. So we want to grab this particular piece, and the small side, the small part that's going to fold up there, we want to go ahead and put a little line of glue just about 1/8 of an inch from the edge on each side. So can you see where that glue is? So I've got it going all the way from the fold all the way to the edge. So see if you can get your glue just right there. And then we're going to close it. I'm going to put this out of the way for when I close it, just so I don't have anything in the way. I'm going to close that, and I'm going to squeeze the edges here, and I'm going to push it in a little bit. I don't know if you can see this, but I'm trying to make a little tiny bit of a pocket there. So it's going to look like they're still lined up on the sides, but there's just going to be a little bit of a space there. And see, that way I'll be able to put my gift card or my money in there without having to pull it up too hard. So we're going to do that. Okay. And I've got a little extra glue there. I'm just going to take that and just get rid of that with my fingernail so that it's not going to be part of my card for later. So okay, so we're just going to take that and make sure we have that little pocket made. We've got that little extra space there. And we're going to set that aside for now and just let that really dry nicely while we work on the rest of our card. So now we have our piece of blue cardstock and a piece of designer series paper. And what we'll do is we're going to put this on so that it's the same distance on the sides and the top and bottom over to the right. And you can probably choose whichever side of your paper you want, but it might get a little busy. So I chose for these the yellow side to be up, but that's your choice. And so I'm going to go ahead and just put a dot of glue in each corner on the back of my paper. So whichever side you want to be the back, make sure that you put those 4 dots of glue in there. And again, this is going to be off to the right and the same distance from the top and the side and the bottom. All right, so now it's time for us to put our happy birthday. And that happy birthday, you can see it goes over the edge just a little bit, and I like that. I like that idea that it really looks like it's a separate piece. So it's time to glue our happy birthday on. And I think we'll go ahead and this would be a good one to bring back in your toothpick and your glue. And I'm ready for some fresh glue. So I'm just gonna, actually I'll put some right here. Just a little layer of fresh glue there. And it's time to glue this in place. So I like to kind of hold it up in the air when I do it. That way I don't get any extra glue on my work surface, but that's up to you, whatever you're most comfortable with. And so I'm just going to go ahead and glue all the little parts, and I'm aiming for everything that's kind of at the top. So there's a lot of little squiggles and swirls to this. I don't have to glue everywhere. It's going to hold just fine. As long as I get the top and the bottom of each letter or curve, I'm going to be just fine. So take your time to get the glue just a very, very thin layer. Of course, not too much time because you don't want it to all dry up and have to start over. But just kind of work your way around, getting it just on the edges. Just think about places where it might kind of pick up, or it might, maybe if it was going in an envelope where it might need a little extra to hold it in place. Well, I think that looks really good. I think I better get mine down because I've already starting to see some of my areas starting to dry. So I'm going to go ahead and put mine down. So again, I'm going to hold it somewhere where I don't have glue, line it up really carefully, and then just push it down. There we go. There we go. And so if I've done it well, kind of all my areas seem to be holding pretty well. So I'll just wait a minute while you're doing that, because it takes a little while to get all the gluing together and get it all situated like that. And we'll be doing our little ice cream cone next. So there we are. So hopefully you have your blue and then you have your piece of yellow together, and your card looks like this. So hopefully we'll be moving on to our finished card. All right. Well, I think we'll move on to putting our ice cream cone on, and I'll show you just a little bit about how I made the ice cream cone. So give you a little chance to glue that. So let's go ahead and just place those pieces in this section on the left rather. So I've got an ice cream cone, and this was a good 2-scooper. I love that. You better lick it quickly before it all starts to melt. So that's where it's going to go. So now we can just kind of pick our pieces up and put the cone down first. So that's going to kind of be in this open space here. We'll just put 3 dots of glue on to get that open space there. There we go. So I think mine is sort of right at that same level where the bottom of this goes. It doesn't have to be, but I thought I would like to do that. And then your pieces are going to be different. They all came from a big giant piece of paper with all different colors on it. So just decide which is your top cone and which, or scoop, and which is your bottom one. However you like to do it is just fine. I'm going to go with my most boring one at the bottom because I like the more interesting one at the top. So I'm going to overlap the edge of the cone. So I've got those cute little scallops overlapping that. And then I'm going to do the same thing with my second one, and I'm just going to top that right on top of, right above the scoop. So I'll be covering up a bunch of the top half of the scoop of the first scoop, and lay that right on top there. Okay, so there's our 2 scoops of ice cream and our happy birthday. And now it's time to put this onto our card. So it's very important to think about where your glue is going to go, because we need to make certain that when you open it up, there's no glue here. So you have to think that's the part that's under the Y. So almost this last 1.5 inches or whatever should have no glue behind there when we put the piece onto the card. So let's go ahead and plan that. I'm going to flip mine over. I'm going to flip it this way, and I'm going to remind myself not to put any glue over there. So I'm going to start kind of here, maybe 1/3 of the way over, and just put my dots of glue there. So this part's going to be completely without glue, and I'll bring back in my piece, and this is going to be centered left and right, top and bottom, and I can push down on those little dots of glue, and we'll check and see how I did. Oh good, no glue here, so that worked out well. Okay, there we go. So that's put together. So while you're still doing a little bit of gluing, I'll just set this here, and I want to show you how I did some punching. That's my kitty cat. Her name is Nemo, and she likes to be part of everything that happens here. So she's coming over to say hello to you. This is a builder punch. It's got the top of the ice cream cone, and it's got the cone here as well. And so what I'm going to do is I just turn it over, and this is actually some paper that has some crisscrosses on it, so it works really well for a cone. I'll just punch that out, and you can see I got a perfect little ice cream cone out of that. So there's my little ice cream cone there. And then I can punch this out and you can see here I've already punched out one of the scoops at the top, so I'm going to put that out of the way. And so I'm going to use my punch this way now. Oops, I got to clean out all my little pieces. And I'm going to pick the pattern that I want for my scoop. So I can do 1 scoop, and then I can just move it along, and I can do a 2nd scoop. And that's how I got all those unusual patterns on your pieces. So I've got my scoop and that's how I did it. And this is again what we call a builder punch, and so it's the ice cream builder punch, and that's how we got both of those pieces out of one punch to create our beautiful birthday card, gift card. So I hope you've enjoyed all of this. You are always welcome to contact me. I've tried to answer a lot of questions for you that people have asked me over the years. A question that you might have in your mind is, Well, this class was great, but how would I do a little bit more stamping if I wanted to do something besides here at the library or whatever? And a couple of things are, we have a bunch of kits in Stampin' Up! Makes that have all the pieces cut out for you and ready to go. So those are available on my website. And also, if you wanted any other products, we have a full catalog of products. Also, I love to talk about what it's like to teach. I absolutely love my job. I love what I do. I love the team of people that I have worked with. And so I'm always happy to answer your questions, whether they're about products that we have, how to use a particular item, what's available. I'm always happy here to talk with you and help you in any way I can. So do feel free to contact me, and I can help you with whatever you would like help with. Well, take care until next time. Let me put the cards back here. I'm going to put all 4 of them up and hold them on this video for just a moment so you can see what we did today, and kind of maybe catch up if you haven't had a chance to finish them all. This is what they all look like when they're all done, and I just cannot wait for you to be able to send these cards and hear how people enjoyed them, especially the one that has the gift card in. I think that's going to be a real winner. So I hope you enjoy lots and lots of wonderful paper crafting, and this is just one moment in time where you'll continue crafting and loving it for a long time to come. Take care.